Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In the last lesson we made these game objects as stars that we are able to collect, and that's going to be our trigger for the score. But right now we actually don't have a text to display our score. In this lesson we'll be configuring that. There are two ways to do this. The first way is to create a 2D text, and the second way is to create a 3D text. 3D text is a lot simpler to handle, and since this text will not be interactive with the player or any other game object, it's okay for it to be a 3D object instead of a 2D one, even if this is a 2D game. To create one, simply right-click in the Hierarchy tab, choose 3D object, and at the bottom of the list you should find the 3D text. We can rename it to score. You might notice that our text is a bit blurry and low resolution. In order to change that, we need to increase the font size. So let's set the font size in the text mesh component to about 200. However, that will make our text look incredibly big. To reduce the size but keep the high resolution, we'll need to reduce the character size. It will be around 0.05. Reset the positions, and now drag it into place wherever you want it to be. I want it to be in the top left corner. Around here. Hello world is our starting text right now. We want it to start with a 0 since the player hasn't collected any stars yet at the beginning of the game. So change this text here to 0. Let's click play and see how it looks like. Okay, after the first play we can notice two things that need to be corrected. The first thing is that this text isn't following the camera. To fix that, simply take the score game object and make it a child of the house screen. And this will make it follow the camera up as the game progresses. The second thing is that it doesn't change the value from 0 to 1 once we collect the star. To fix that issue, we'll need to do some coding again. And that coding will be in the script that handles the player collisions, and that script is of course called the player collision script. So go ahead and double click on the player collision to open it up in Visual Studio. If we scroll down at the bottom of this script, we can see that we made place for that code indicated by our comment that we made in the last lesson. But before that, we'll need some new variables. So let's go back to the start of the script. And let's introduce a public variable that will be of the type GameObject. And we can name it score. Another variable will be private, and that type will be text mesh. And we can name it score text. The purpose of the first variable is to select the score game object. And the purpose of this second variable is just to make things easier for ourselves. With this variable we'll be selecting one component of this game object. And that component will be the text mesh component. We can see it also if we go back to our Unity and select our score game object. And this is the component that we want to select. The attribute that we want to edit in this component is the text attribute, or this one. An important thing to keep in mind is that this attribute only takes strings as parameters. Strings are basically alphanumeric text values, while integers are only numeric values. This 0 might look like an integer now, but trust me, this is in fact a string. So to handle this properly, first we'll need to convert this string to an integer, then increment it, and then convert the whole new number to a string in order to make it fit into this text attribute, since it only takes strings. I can demonstrate that for you in a few seconds. Go back to the script for now. Since this variable is public, we'll be selecting it by dragging the game object into the script tab in Unity, but we need to select this one now. In order to do that, we'll need the start method again that we deleted. To reintroduce it, simply type private void start. Once the script loads, we want to point this to the correct component. So score text will be equal to score, since we want to select a component from this game object, dot get component, and the component that we want to get, of course, is a text mesh component. Make sure you open and close the brackets since this is a function. And don't forget the semicolon, of course. Now that everything is ready, let's scroll down to the bottom of our script, where we made place for our code. And let me demonstrate why we need to convert it from string to integer and then back to string from that integer. We want to edit the score text, which is a text mesh component. And let's see it in Unity. So this is this component, and the attribute that we want to edit is the text attribute. So go back to the script and type score text dot text, indicating the attribute. That equals to that same number that we have, which is 0 at the moment, plus 1. Let's save this and see how it actually works. Go back to Unity and select the player game object, then scroll to the bottom to find our script. We can see that the score is not attached yet, so let's go ahead and change that. If we click play, we can see what will happen once we collect the star. Okay, so instead of incrementing the score, it just adds 1 to the text of the score, which is not exactly what we wanted. That's the reason why we need to do these conversions. First off, you'll need to convert this to an integer, and in order to do that, simply first put it into brackets, since that will be the parameter, and the function will be written in front of these brackets. The function for conversion is system.convert to integer 32. Now it will work fine in a sense that it will be correctly adding 1 to the number. So if we have a 0 here and add 1, it will not be 0, 1, but this time it will only be 1. However, we are getting an error here because this only takes string as a value. Because of that, we'll need to convert this whole number that we got to a string value. And again, it's the same procedure. First put it inside of brackets, and in front of the brackets write system.convert.toString. And everything should be working fine now. Go to File and click on Save All, and go back to Unity. We don't need to attach the score in the script again since we have already done that, and we are ready to test it out. That's it for this lesson. We have completed our goal, and the next thing that we need to do regarding the score is to make a game over screen and display the score there as well once we fail, and also make a high score system that will be saved even if we exit the game. And we will be doing that in the next few lessons, so stay tuned.